Rafi thinks Seven would make a great captain. Eleanor has a cool new holo emitter. And Agnes, or the Borg queen, whatever she is, flies off in Rios' ship. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we're doing a review of Star Trek Picard Season 2, Episode 9, entitled Hide and Seek, written by Matt Okamura and Chris Derrick, directed by Michael Weaver. How you doing today, Cirroc?
Doing good.
Awesome. Season 2 of Star Trek Picard Reviews on the Seventh Rule is brought to you by our friend Grandpa One, aka Tim Baum. Thank you for sponsoring this entire season of Star Trek Picard Reviews. Tim, you are the coolest. Now, it's time. A lot of times we read this in the comments where people say, hey, this episode was confusing. I didn't really know what to think. But then I watched your review and it all makes sense now. It's a lot of pressure, but we are going to do that again for you, everybody. It's fun time. Sit back and relax. We're going to make sense of all this stuff and we're going to have a good time together. So,
yeah.
First things first. There were a lot of times where we saw the Borg kind of green laser lights kind of going around in the fog, right?
Yeah.
Remember that? That reminded me of, that left the biggest impression on me in this episode. That reminded me, I think it was a movie. It was Star Trek First Contact. I think it was. And Picard was in a holodeck. And there was like a firefight or something. There was like smoke, whatever that came up. And you saw those lights, the Borg lights going through, the laser lights. Everybody in the comments, tell me, am I right? Was it that? Or was it an episode? I think it was Star Trek First Contact that was reminiscent of that stuff. Because as soon as I saw it, I was like, hey, we've seen this before. So that was a really good nod by the writers and directors of this, because that reminded me very much of it. And by the way, not Neelix. Was Neelix in that? I need to watch First Contact again. I think Ethan Phillips. I think Ethan Phillips was in that scene. Yeah, I think he was. Anyway, moving on.
But really quickly, though, just to piggyback off that, the green lights that were being shown in that First Contact movie, those were emitted from the Borg's headset, right?
Yeah.
The little eyepiece thing that they have, right?
Yeah.
That emits that green laser light. In this instance, those lights were being caused by the weapons that they were holding, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So it was a callback, but it wasn't necessarily the same thing emitting the laser.
And I think before it was red lights too. But it was just very reminiscent. It was just like you see that and it reminds you of that scene. There's also the scene where Picard, whatever. I don't want to give you any spoilers of Next Generation and the Best of Both Worlds, but a lot of people know that there was a scene at the very end of the first Best of Both Worlds where Picard's laser goes sing and faces the camera. Anyway, so Rafi says that 7 of 9 would be a good captain. Do you agree?
I can't say that I agree. And the reason I say that is because I believe she would be a good captain if she was kind of like Rios in her own ship with no other crew members. But if she was in the traditional sense of captain, like Picard, like Sisko, like Janeway, I don't see her having the communication skills to be able to tell other people what to do, to delegate responsibility. even in this episode, she's like, I have a great idea. Just trust me. You know, it wasn't, there's like, you know, usually I expect the captain to say, go over there and do this. I need more power over here. Set a course for this place, this starship right here. Raise the shields up. Do this. I want you to go down here and try to see if you can da 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 da. There's always this kind of delegation of responsibility that I don't see Seven of Nine in her nature, at least in her character's nature. I don't see that kind of ability to set people off on different tasks.
That's a good
She's
point.
She's very independent.
Exactly. Yeah. She seems more like a lone wolf kind of thing.
Right.
That's true. I don't know if her character has the will to be a captain that's responsible for 100 or 1,000 lives. Maybe it, you know, some people just don't want that, and she doesn't seem like, you know, because I wasn't sure when Rafi said that. My first thought was like, oh, that's cool, but yeah, you make some good points. It does seem that maybe that's not the path that she would have necessarily wanted. She might have grown into that. But here was something interesting, and this was brought up in the Picard group, the Star Trek Picard Facebook group. Somebody mentioned that Starfleet said no to Seven of Nine being in Starfleet because of her Borg history, right? But in season 1 of Picard, Icheb was an officer in Starfleet, and he was a Borg. Sorry, he was Borg, is the way they say it. So what's the difference there? They say, okay, Icheb, you were Borg, but you're cool, you're in. Seven of Nine, you were Borg, but just a little too Borgy. A little too Borgy. Sorry, you're over the line of too much Borgness. Maybe it's the amount of time that they were part of the hive mind. You know, maybe Icheb was, you know, a Borg for less long. I don't know. We can only guess.
I also think maybe there may be a relevance to the kind of actions that you took when you were a Borg. So I don't know if Icheb had a mass casualties on his resume, and you know, did he eliminate, you know, annihilate a bunch of people, or was he just kind of you know, a technician in the Borg ship just fixing the plumbing? You know,
he was the O'Brien.
He was the O'Brien of the Borg. So I don't know what level of participation, for example. You know, we know Seven of Nine was very active and very dominant. So maybe she's being penalized because of the actions she was a part of.
Yeah, good points. Eleanor finally came back. We have hardly seen any of him, but I thought that was actually a highlight of the episode. That Jaradi, or what's left of Jaradi hiding in there, made an emergency combat program, kind of like the emergency medical holographic program or Rios's other, you know, holographic programs, and just brought him up as a combat program and hid the key to whatever it was inside of him. He also had a holo emitter that was on his shoulder, and that was from Voyager, the emergency medical doctor, holographic, whatever, emergency medical holographic program, EMH, played by Robert Picardo. He later on in, you know, later seasons got this holo emitter from some future whatever, and that made it to where he could leave, you know, the sick bay. He could go anywhere he wanted with this holo emitter. And so that was a nice little detail that we saw, Star Trek fans, when we see this thing on what's his name, Eleanor's shoulders, we know what that is. We're like, whoa, he's got his holo emitter. I thought that was a really cool touch. I liked it a lot. I didn't expect you to catch that because that's a Voyager thing. It's a very solid Voyager thing.
Yeah, I didn't catch it, but I did appreciate his presence in this episode.
Yeah,
I thought he was one of the. I thought it was cleverly written for Dr. Jaradi to be able to hide, you know, the codes for the ship inside of Eleanor. I also thought it was great because clearly you're going to have a hard time trying to, try to wrestle Eleanor down to the ground and get the info out of him, because he's clearly an expert fighter. So I thought it was great. I love the scene of him kind of going through the cabinets and looking for the weapon to fight. He's like, picks up the guns. He's like, no. Then he picks up the big gun. He's like, nah. Then he finds his sword and he's like, that's what I'm talking about.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're like, that is so Eleanor. That's totally what Eleanor would pick. Actually, speaking of weapons, Talon's weapon, this lady here, played by Orla Brady, her weapon was awesome. It was like some kind of pulse rifle, right? It was like shooting out pulse lasers. That was cool. I guess that maybe that's a Romulan weapon. So maybe it's a disruptor. Probably some kind of pulse disruptor or something like that.
It looked great. And the sound effects were awesome too when she was firing the shots off into the bushes, or it was it was really going off. I liked it. The thing that I thought was unusual in this episode was the teleporting that they were doing. It looked different than the teleporting that they normally do. Yeah, because they had this purplish kind of smoke. Now, does anybody have an explanation for that?
Snoop Dogg does.
Yeah, because I couldn't figure it out. I was like, where did this smoke effect come into play?
Yeah.
And it dissipates so quickly. I'm like, isn't that more of... Yeah.
I don't remember if we've seen that before. I don't remember if that is a Romulan technology thing, or if that is specific to Talon or Rios's ship, because they did it consistently, and I thought the same. I was like, have we seen this? I'm sure we must have.
I hadn't seen it before. Maybe I didn't pay attention to it before, because it was pretty obvious. They did it several times in this episode, where the teleporting with the... I mean, it looked great, but it just wasn't the kind of, disappearing, pixelated white lines, bright lines. You know what I mean? It wasn't that. And so I was thinking, what the hell is this technology? Or is this the same technology when you apply it in this time period, it works like this? I couldn't figure out where the purple smoke was coming from. I needed an explanation on that. There's something.
Every time you say purple smoke, for some reason, I can't help but think it. Yeah. He knows. So I think it's got to be, Talon or Rios's ship. Or, yeah, I don't know. It's something like that. So this is where we're going to need the audience. Everybody, please chime in. Let us know what's up with the purple Kush. I mean, smoke. Let us know, have we seen that before, and what technology is that? Because I feel like we must have seen it, but I don't remember. Anyway, but that, looked cool. A lot of cool new technology that kind of seems almost out of place, because we're watching them walk through, trees and bushes, and not in the future, not too far in the future, but they have like phase cannons and purple Kush stuff, and like laser beams and all that, So it's a really interesting dichotomy of present day meets futuristic weaponry. And what's her name? Teresa says that at one point. She says, which one of these things takes out bullets? And it's like, that one. She got acclimated pretty quick to that, though.
I mean, and even at some point in this episode, Picard picks up like an old 6-shooter or something from his house and fires off some shots. But this may have been the first time that we've seen. I don't know. Maybe you get me wrong, but we see regular guns versus phasers, and because when the Borg Queen, or when Dr. Agnes, when she assimilates that whole little militia that she assembles, they're there with conventional weapons of today's times, right? They don't have any futuristic weapons. She didn't arm them with phasers, I don't think.
Not that I know of. The only thing is that, okay, well, actually, this kind of makes me think of kind of the big elephant in the room to me, which is there's one episode left, and is Dr. Jaradi, who's now turning into a Borg queen, is she now just free to go about the galaxy in Rios's ship and completely change the timeline? If she is a new Borg queen and going to create the Borg, especially creating the Borg in a different way than we know them, before they were, malevolent, and now they're going to be benevolent, theoretically, then that means entire races that were wiped out will no longer be wiped out, which means they might in turn wipe out the Ferengi, for example. Or, 7 of 9 may cease to exist because she never got assimilated by the Borg, and so she stayed with her family out in the Delta Quadrant, and they got killed by something else. Or whatever. I mean, the Borg has its hand in so many things over the next 400 years after 2024. So that, unless something changes in the next episode, which I'm assuming it will, her flying off like that is going to change the timeline in the hugest way. It's going to just change it. The going back to the future will be unrecognizable.
Yeah, but what they didn't show you, and this is a little, I guess this is a spoiler.
Okay, here it comes.
Yeah, they didn't show you that her ship actually crashes with a commercial flight that was headed out of a certain airport. So she didn't actually make it that far. She got into an accident on the way out. So
whoops.
No, I have no idea, because this whole timeline thing is, first of all,
complicated.
It's complicated. Number one, they're like, don't even touch a single thing because we don't want to alter the timeline. Meanwhile, he takes Teresa up to the space station. They kill about 20 mercenary Borg soldier guys. They kill all these people. They're going around. They're blowing up immigration buses. They got run into by the FBI or whoever that guy was. And I'm just thinking, for a group of people that are supposed to not, disturb the timeline, they're doing a hell of a good job of disturbing the timeline.
Yeah. I mean, especially because, like with every, time travel episode, somebody has to lecture people about don't change anything. Don't move a rock. Don't open a door. Don't talk to anybody. Just get in, get out. And they've just changed everything. I mean, they've just, it's like you have a chessboard that's like totally perfect, and they're like, oops, don't nudge that pawn, and you sneeze and knock every single piece off of the board. So this final episode is going to either tie everything back together somehow, or it's going to leave all of these open-ended pieces, and then when they go back to the future, it'll be unrecognizable. However, how will they go back to the future if they don't have the Borg Queen's technology? Because she was the one that took them into the past. So if she's gone, that's why I think that we're going to see her and Jaradi come back. I think Jaradi's going to overpower her, because they can't otherwise they're stuck here forever.
Yeah, that's where my own intuition is saying that they're going to stow away on the Europa ship that's scheduled to leave. And somehow they're going to convert that Europa exodus into wherever their destination is. I don't know how that's going to be possible, but that's my guess right now at this point. But yeah, we're all left with that kind of question of like, what the hell are they going to do and how are they going to get there? That's the other issue that I have with the whole Q thing, because, you know, the last episode could also be Q just snaps his fingers and puts everybody back to square one. And we spent this whole season trying to solve something and figure it out, and it could get undone with a snap of a finger. And so there's also that possibility.
Yeah, you think about how many loose ends need to be tied up. I mean, you have Teresa and Rios need to have some kind of closure or decision or something, theoretically. Agnes and the Borg Queen and Rios' ship. You have we got closure in Picard's, you know, old story of when he was a child. We kind of know what happened there. That's more to talk about there. We have what the heck is going to happen with Talon. Now, the little storyline with 7 of 9 getting her Borg implants back, that doesn't really, that's, you know, kind of a one-hitter quitter thing there.
We have Eleanor, who's technically dead.
Yeah. But then we also have Adam Sung, played by Brent Spiner, and Corey and their storyline there. We have Q and his storyline. Is there going to be more of Guinan? I mean, like, there's so many pieces in play. How are they going to close this all out in one episode? I have no idea. That is a lot to tie up in one episode, but they're obviously going to do it. I think. I think
either that, or they're going to leave some open end, you know,
for next
kind
season.
of cliffhanger for next season, and then just tell us, hey, no, we're not going to solve it. We're leaving them right here in this position, and they're going to be on Earth, and they have to find a way to, you know, signal Riker so that he can save them or something like that, you know?
Right. Well, that's why I think that they're going to tie up all these loose ends and go back to the future, because we know that the entire Next Generation cast is going to be in season 3. So how will they be in it if Picard is stuck in the past, you know, anyway, or the present, or the present's near future, I should say. Unless you're watching this review in a couple years, then the present.
Well, maybe they'll go to the Peterson Automotive Museum and find the DeLorean.
There we go. I did say Back to the Future. Whoops.
You did say Back to the Future.
So Picard's mom, that was a really poignant way of showing us that when everything went in reverse. It kind of told us the story of how it happened. We see her, you know, hanging there. She's dead. Then we see how she got there. We see where she came from. Oh, she's in bed with little Picard, and then Picard comes out and he leaves the room and he unlocks the door. And so we kind of reverse engineer what happened. He unlocked the door to go lay in bed with her. She wakes up, she walks out, goes into a different room, hangs herself. That was a pretty sad scene. That made me feel very sad, because you can't imagine somebody's mother committing suicide when they're a child. That just sounds like the worst possible thing ever.
Yeah. So when that happened and I was watching it, I was just like, sadness on top of sadness. That's what I wrote in this. Yeah. Because essentially that's this episode, like in a nutshell. I said, where is the joy in this episode? No happy feelings from this show.
Not this episode.
I got zero happy feelings. Actually, I did. I got a little bit of a happy moment when Eleanor popped up. And I was like, oh, he's back. Yeah. There was a little bit of happiness there. Mm-hmm. And but then I thought it was weird when Rafi goes up to Eleanor and says, I know you're not Eleanor, but I just want to say, and then proceeds to talk to him like he's Eleanor. So I thought that was another kind of an awkward moment, but it was also kind of honest. for Rafi because she's been holding that on her chest for a while.
Yeah, and it was interesting that Eleanor's hologram knew what Eleanor was thinking as he was dying. That was like, I felt like I was doing math in my head. I'm like, wait, how? But, whatever. This is technology, right? So there was a happy moment for me when they mentioned Janeway. There was a NAM for Janeway, a non-appearance mention. It was a quick one. 7 of 9 says, when she was trying to go into Starfleet, she said, 7 of 9 went to bat for me. She threatened to resign. So that means she really went to bat for her and said, look, I'm going to resign if you don't let her in. Obviously, she didn't resign and it didn't work. But it's the thought that counts. It was a nice non-appearance mention. It was cool. And yeah, I did smile when Eleanor found his sword, and in his funny Australian or New Zealand accent, he said, hello. Like they, that accent over there, they, instead of saying no, they say noi. Instead of hello, they go hello or something weird. Like I can't quite do it, but when you hear it, you're like, hey, he says it funny. Made me happy.
And then, Picard's dad, I think you told us before about him originally trying to be the Bashir character, or they because as soon as he walks out, I think of Bashir. It's like it's almost instant, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there were some moments that left me a little bit disappointed. One was when the Borg were attacking, Rios comes running in with Teresa and the boy, and they meet up with Picard in that field or something, and they're hiding behind those wine barrels or whatnot, and they're getting shot at by the Borg from the bushes. Yeah. I felt like they needed to write Picard as more of a leader in that moment. Watching him kind of cower behind the wine barrel and not have a weapon in his hand, not really be in a leadership kind of general admiral position, left me a little bit wanting more, because he's just cowering behind the thing. He's not even saying, why do we flank him on the left? You go that way and I'll do this and that,
Well, you know what he did do? Actually, right before that, I had the opposite feeling, which was, I think 7 came up with a plan. Somebody started talking about a plan and he said, let's do it, or something like it was almost like they were waiting for him to have the final word. And it kind of got me thinking. I was like, is Captain Picard, or Picard, I should just say, is he kind of, the tip of the spear? Is he the boss? Is he in charge? Because sometimes it seems like he is, sometimes it seems like he isn't. But in these cases, usually somebody's coming up with a plan and then they go, oh, great plan. And then they kind of look at Picard and he goes, okay, let's do it. They go, okay. So that's he kind of just makes the decision. He's the final arbiter of decision making or something like that. So I kind of went down that rabbit hole of saying, I guess he's not like technically in charge, because nobody's really technically in charge, I don't think. But he is kind of, the last word on what we're going to do and what we're not going to do kind of thing, So that was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I just wanted more from him in that little scene there, just kind of yelling orders and just being a little bit more assertive about what the plan should be, You stay here and take cover. I will go in this way and do that.
Then take a nap. I'm old. I need some rest. All this fighting. I am too old to be fighting Borg and running around. Yeah. What is going on? I'm already having dreams of my mom dying. Like, can I just take a break, please? Right?
Yeah. And then there was another moment I was waiting for him to kind of bang on Rios. When Rios comes up back with Teresa and he says, are they coming with us? Is she coming with us or something like that? And then Rios is like, yeah, they were on the ship. And he does one of these, and he kind of grabs his forehead. And I'm thinking, that's the time to go full Picard on this guy and say, what were you thinking?
I was confused there, that exact line, because I thought the same thing you thought. And then I said, well, hang on a second. I think Rios was talking about the Borg. He said,
"Oh,
are they still on the, or, you know, are they coming after us, or are they coming with us, or something like that?" And he says, yeah, they were on the ship. And Picard does this and so I'm not 100% sure which one it is, but first I thought what you said, where he's like, he's just finding out about Teresa and her kid, but then they kind of started talking about the Borg, and I was like, oh wait, I think they were talking about the Borg. So that was kind of a little,
okay.
I feel like I should have gone back to clarify that, because I'm still not 100% sure if that's correct, but could be one or the other.
Yeah, so my initial thought was that he was talking about Teresa.
Me too.
Because he shows up with Teresa, and I think his line is she coming? Like, is she coming? You know, like, is she coming with us or something? And he said, Rio says something like, yeah, she was on the ship or something, or she's on the ship. Something to like, she was on the ship. So I thought,
right,
he was disclosing to Picard that he brought her on the ship and showed her the ship. And I was thinking, that's the moment when Picard is supposed to have one of his Picard, well, we'll have to talk about this later type of, you know.
Damn it, Rios. I told you.
Yeah. Yes.
So here's some interesting stuff. Our good buddy Don Crandall sent in some things. Not a ton of Easter eggs here. However, he says, very astutely, it appeared for a moment there was some retcon with Picard's mother not growing old, since we saw the elderly version in his hallucination from an early season 1 Next Generation episode entitled Where No One Has Gone Before. Here is the picture from that episode. So a lot of people are like, wait a second, how can Picard's mom be dead if we saw him talking to her and having tea and all that stuff, right? So the writers were like, we're going to handle this. Don't worry, we got this. And Don Crandall says, but they saved it by saying Picard would imagine his mother was able to grow old, serve him tea, and ask for a chat. So that line, when he said that in this episode, that was them saying, so that episode in season 1 that you guys saw, we're not ignoring that. We're just saying that that was his imagination, not a real thing. So that kind of saves that there. However, he brings up another thing that I wanted to talk about, which is, he says, that kind of attention to detail to cleverly work around established lore without actual retcon is impressive. But where is Picard's older brother, Robert? Maybe he's much older and has moved out. Maybe he's off at boarding school. So we do see, I think it was the episode Family, Next Generation episode Family, Picard and his brother, Robert. That's his brother. His brother is older. So the question is, where in this story is Robert? Okay. So Don posits maybe he's much older and off in college or something like that. But the way they acted in the Next Generation was that they were close in age. They clearly used to fight as kids, and siblings don't fight if one is 12 years older than the other. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like an 18-year-old and a 6-year-old are wrestling unless they're just having fun and screwing around. But this was an actual like fight between the two, like kids do. So that was interesting, and I don't really know where to take that.
Yeah, I don't either. I think they just kind of like, well, let's just sweep that under there. Let's not acknowledge it, because usually, like you said, they would acknowledge something. They obviously knew about the episode where his mother has gray hair and serving him tea, so they tried to bury that with an excuse. But it would have been nice if they had have just said something about him. But
yeah. So I don't know what that situation is, but it was good to see Gaius Balter again. Picard's dad, I should say. Gaius was his Battlestar Galactica character. James Callis, that's his name. Anyway, We only have a few minutes left. Do you have any final thoughts on this episode? It's all very confusing, and it's all leaves me. I was very confident that everything would close up in a nice, neat package with a nice, neat bow after the 10th episode. But we're in the 9th episode, and the storyline is still fraying outward instead of coming together. So now I'm less confident that we're going to get everything closed down and full closure. I don't know.
Yeah, especially when when that ship took off, I was like, "What? Yeah. That's their ride." So yeah, they made it worse than better than this episode. So I have no idea where we're gonna go. Q wasn't in this episode, so we didn't get to see him at all. He's still gallivanting and snapping his fingers somewhere in the distance. I did like to say that Dr. Agnes Jaradi had the very difficult task of almost playing a possessed person, essentially. Yeah. And so that she has to put on a persona that's not hers. And I thought she did a fantastic job of that in this episode. She's such a, like, even her dialogue came out completely different. She didn't even appear to be the Dr. Agnes that we always know and love. She completely became this other person in this episode that we haven't even seen, this hybrid Borg human person that we haven't seen really before. And one of my favorite moments is when Rafi and 7 of 9 are both knocked out by the Borg, and I think 7 of 9 is going to die, and Rafi they come back to life, and Rafi looks up and says, "Dr. Agnes, is that you?" And she says, "Yes." No. It's like yeah, it's me, but it's not me. And I like that. It was pretty well done.
Every week, Alison Pill's acting blows me away. Love it, love it, love it. Same with Michelle Hurd's acting, because Michelle seems to wear her emotions right in front of her. It's almost like it's strange. I don't know if it makes sense, but it feels like when she's out there acting in front of the camera, it feels like her emotions are right in front of her. Like you can just read them, and she's exuding them, and she just emits such energy and emotion in everything she does that it's very interesting, and it's fun to watch. It's great to watch, and she's one of those actors that makes me immediately go, I need to be a better actor. Like sometimes you watch these people and you're like, oh boy, I need to step up my game, So shout out to them every week. Everybody, great ensemble cast, but those two seem to consistently be standing out every episode for me.
And also, I mean, I can't say enough on how much I love Teresa. She had a line in this. She said, "I would like to rewire your brain." The way she said it, I loved it. It was just beautiful. He's like, "I got to rewire this." And she's like, "I want to rewire your brain." She is so great. And she's like, "What if I'm the future?" Oh, she's just so beautiful, and her words are so amazing. Very much love her. And they'll probably be needing her since they're stuck back on Earth and they didn't really take off like they thought they would be.
Are you sad that Rios is going to leave her, or are you like, good, with Rios out of the way?
Now you're thinking.
Here we go. We're rewiring your brain now.
By the way, for some reason or another, I like 7 of 9's character better with the little Borg.
With the implants?
Yeah, I don't know why. Just she looks hotter with it for some reason. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, I think we just got used to her always having that. And so when she didn't have it anymore, it was almost like she was a different character. And then when she got him back, you're like, there we go. There she is. That's the one I remember.
It's so crazy, but I literally have a difficult time when she doesn't have it. I'm like, she's who is this? it's almost like her identity in some way. It's like I don't know. It's just my eye feels more comfortable looking at her when she has that thing on her face.
Yep. Yeah. I get it. So we're just about out of time here, everybody. We do want to give a very special thanks to, here they come, Homer Frizzell in Walter Koenig's former apartment building in New York City, like Manhattan area. Dr. Marie Segal, Eve England out in Wales, Yvette Blackmon, Carmen, a.k.a. Skillet, Baum, good old Tim Baum, TJ Jackson-Bey out in Missouri, Titus Mohler, by the way, Darlena, Marie, Bill Victor Arucan, Dr. Mohamed Noor, Dr. Frank Sobozhensky, Anna Post, Tierney C. Dieckmann, Anil O. Palat, Rex A. Wood, Patrick David Lindsley, Joe Balsarati, and of course, everybody knows Dr. Susan V. Gruner. Thank you all for joining us, everybody. Season 2, episode 10 has a lot on their shoulders right now. We'll see. I don't know how they're going to pull it off.
They can tie up. They're not going to be able to tie up all of the loose ends, but let's get at least some of the major ones down.
We'll see. They might. You never know. We'll find out in about a week. Thank you all for joining us, everybody. And until next time, always remember the 7th rule.